I'm Natalie Standridge, founder and franchisor of Casa de Corazon Intercultural Early Learning. Welcome to my podcast, Decades of Disruption. Here, I'll share my journey, the decades of stories and convictions that have driven my choice to not only contribute to, but also to disrupt the early childhood education industry. But these stories aren't only my own. I'll be joined by the people whose lives have been changed by what I've created and whose mere existence have been a constant source of inspiration to me too. If you're ready to challenge the status quo and build something truly unique and impactful, you're in the right place. Disruption has a purpose, and we're here to talk about it. Today's episode features someone who has played an essential role in the growth and clarity of Casa de Corazon's franchise system. Joe Fittante is a familiar and trusted presence within the Minnesota and national franchise communities. His direct style, practical judgment, and ability to guide organizations through complex stages of expansion have made him a valued ally to many, including my team. Joe, thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I couldn't be more excited to be here with one of my favorite clients and, more importantly, one of my favorite people.
Oh, so kind, Joe. I always tell everyone that, Casa is one of your favorite clients, but thank you for the personal touch there. I consider you a colleague, a mentor, a friend, just such an important person to me and to my company.
Thank you. It's been quite a ride, We've
It
been
has.
together for how long now? When did
It's almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years,
yeah, it'll
right?
It'll be 10 years.
Yeah, I remember, sitting in a conference room talking about the brand and your vision for what it was and what you thought it could be, and you've done an amazing job. Your passion for what you do for your people shows through every day, and I couldn't be prouder of you, your brand, or the difference you make in people's lives.
Thank you. That's so meaningful to me. Was there like a particular moment early on where you sort of stopped and said, okay, this brand is maybe a little different?
Yes. Your brand is so connected to the franchisees and to their clientele, the kids, the parents, brands every day try to make those connections with their consumers. And, I like to say sometimes people walk the walk, but they don't talk the talk. You walk the walk and you talk the talk. And so I knew from the beginning that you had the passion to make this into something that was bigger than you, and give not only people excellent opportunities to improve their lives, but also affect the communities within which they are.
And I wouldn't do it any other way. I can't imagine having a brand that's not people focused. I can't imagine having a franchise brand that doesn't have corporate owned units where you actually know what it is you're doing before teaching others.
Yeah.
Connection to the community is number one.
That is so important in franchising. Some franchisors will roll out initiatives, etc., without testing them at a corporate location. Yeah. And that is really difficult for franchisees to get behind. Franchisees pay you for your experiences. Totally. And that's why they're paying a royalty to you. And you've done a great job of testing things before you've rolled them out to your system, making sure that you'd worked out all the kinks. So
thank you so much.
You are doing it the right way, kid.
Thank you. Well, I did run my business for 15 years before I started franchising. So that was a kind of roll up your sleeves, real life experience there that I can call on in those tough moments when my franchisees need support. Thank you for that acknowledgement. I just want to hear a little bit about you now and your role as both a leader and a franchise attorney or the president of your firm. What personal habits do you have that sustain your ability to meet those high demands of those roles?
Sure. I need to focus more on doing things outside of my firm.
Yeah.
I lost my way a little bit on that, and I try to exercise, I try to run, I try to read outside of reading, franchise information.
Right. Which is a lot of reading.
Spend time with my family as best I can. I've had to refocus on that in my life. What I do, and with the number of brands that I work with that can consume you, and that happens to the best of us, and you just sometimes just probably like you have to take a step back.
Yes, super important. In your day-to-day work, what's the most challenging thing that you have to do, and what part of it do you like the most?
Yeah, on the franchise counseling side of it, the most challenging thing that I have to do is tell my clients that I think they're wrong, or that I think that there's a better way to do something.
Okay.
And that is hard at times, because if there's one thing I know about founders of franchise companies, they are passionate about their brand. And, sometimes they may not be receptive to that advice. Although at the same time, I don't ever consider myself to be the department of no. I always want to find a way for the franchisor to be able to accomplish their goals in a way that works for them as well as the other parties to the relationship.
Yeah, and it's your job to think of both of those sides, right?
Yeah, and I think as I have, I'll call it become more experienced, aged, if you will, I spend more time thinking about perspective.
Yeah.
And, you conclude that perspective depends upon where you sit.
Yeah.
And so it's important to put yourself in the position not only of the client, but also maybe of the people that it's affecting, those decisions affect, and have conversations about, what that is going to look like, and what's the best way to accomplish that goal, and get everybody on board.
Yes, 100%. And that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of weight on your shoulders, and they might not be hearing it from anyone else but you, right? And so you said it's very consuming. It was hard to have balance with your personal life and family for a while. You maybe lost your way a little bit. Was there a point where you questioned your career path, and, what did you learn about yourself during that time?
It's funny you said point. Singular.
Okay,
there's
that's
always
fair.
Points. One was I was a younger lawyer and trying to build my practice. I questioned whether or not this was the right thing for me. I had an amazing mentor who was very supportive of me, and talked me out of quitting the private practice of law on more than one occasion. And so then you kind of go through stages where you're trying to become successful, and then when you become successful, you get to a point where it can be consuming. Right. And I ended up at that place. Probably 5 years ago now. I had some significant mental health challenges, depression, anxiety, and through the grace of God, through the grace of another partner of mine, who came into my office and said, I see the look. I've been there, and, let me help you. It gave me the push that I needed to go see a professional about kind of getting my mental health in order. And, the thing about mental health challenges that I've come to learn, and I was naive, when I first found that I had a mental health challenge, I thought, it's like a cold. You know what? I'll go to the doctor and they'll give me some medicine and I'll feel better. Yeah. Well, we all know that that's not the way it works. It's a daily battle. You have it for the rest of your life, and you just get better at managing it. And every day there's a challenge, and you just try to remember that there are people in your lives who are supportive of you, people in your life that love you, and keep going one day at a time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm extremely grateful for both the mentor that talked you out of quitting.
Thank you.
And the partner that came in and held up that mirror, and for all of the colleagues and loving individuals in my own life that have held up a mirror for me when I've been struggling or going down the wrong path or not paying attention to myself.
Right.
I think it's really important to have those people who care and say something, and that is the antidote to these mental health tunnels that we can get in, is literally just talking about it.
Yeah, and I will tell you, and this might sound weird, but I'm thankful for it every day because I have two daughters who have their own mental health challenges, and I have become a much better father, a much better listener, and much more empathetic to their challenges than I was before. And
so important.
Yeah, and it, it pains me to say that, but unfortunately, that's the way you grow. And my kids will say to me, like, you are a much different person than you were 5 years ago. So it is. You try to make the best of any circumstance,
100%.
and that's one of the positives that came out of it. The other positive is I'm a much better leader than I was. I'm much more empathetic. Like I said, I try to put myself in the position of others. I've been very public about my challenges. I thought to myself, I'm going to use this for good. And I do some speaking and things like that on the mental health issues for high schools, companies, C-suite executives, and frankly, I've been so open about it that I have our employees, as the president of our firm, have 2, 3, 4, 5 employees who've come to me and said, hey, I'm struggling. What do I do? How did you handle it? What can I do? And it's like without the struggle, I wouldn't have been as open as I am, obviously, about it, which has allowed those other people and given them the ability to feel like my office is a safe space to talk about that stuff.
That is exactly what I'm saying, is the antidote is talking about it. And if people know that you are a safe person who is also an extremely powerful leader, and that it's okay to be open about these things, then they know they can come to you. And I think leadership and parenting are just exactly the same in that regard. And the example that you're setting for both your team and your daughters is so important. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. So you've supported and crossed paths with many franchisors at early stages. What's the most common recurring mistake that you see, even in businesses that may have strong potential?
So I would start by telling you that for every 10 businesses that come to me about franchising their business, if one of them does it, that's a lot. I spend a lot of time trying to talk people out of it because I understand the time, the money, the effort, the emotional, physical toll it can take on you.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to me that people go into it eyes wide open. And, so I know sometimes, and I have to tell clients when they come to me, I say, I'm not questioning your concept or your brand.
Right.
I'm asking you, so don't be defensive when I ask you these questions.
Yeah.
I'm asking you these questions to make sure that you're prepared for the next chapter. Yeah. Because franchising your business, as you know and have come to find out, is much different than running a Casa de Corazon center.
It's a completely different business.
Right, yeah. And so, to get back to your question, the biggest mistake I think is for a new franchisor is they don't have their ducks in a row when they begin franchising, and they're kind of making it up as they go. I think we've had conversations about, I've said to you, with new franchisors, like if I had $1 for every new franchisor that said, I'll have my operating manual done when we go to roll out this FDD, and it's not done, and it delays things, and it takes time. And to me, that's a sign that maybe you're not ready yet. Like you need to work in getting those ducks in a row. And so, and then what also happens is I think some franchisors are not well capitalized when they begin.
Okay.
And they don't understand the cost
Yes.
that you're gonna incur.
Yeah.
And so what that then creates is the sale of franchises maybe to people who aren't the best franchisees, or who if you didn't have to sell a franchise to, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And when your first experience in franchising is a franchisee who is difficult or who doesn't understand the brand, it gets even harder for a franchisor. I always say your first franchisees are the most important franchisees, because
Absolutely.
if you treat them well and they're successful, they will validate for the brand 100 times over. So
Yeah.
you got to be really careful on who you're picking.
Absolutely. And yeah, those first franchisees, if they're validating, if they're loving what they're doing, or even doing multiple units, that is the base you need to grow, because prospective franchisees don't want to know how's life for you, Natalie, franchisor. They want to know how is life for someone that's already doing what I'm thinking about doing. And they're going to talk to those franchisees in the brand. And so it matters.
Yeah, and it's like I said, perspective depends upon where you sit.
Yep.
Franchisors sometimes forget that franchisees, they're people. They have issues outside. They may be going through a divorce. They may have children who are having issues, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so, you take them as you find them. And sometimes I think we, as franchisors, don't take that into consideration enough when we're picking people and when we're supporting them through the franchise life cycle and the growth of their business.
Exactly. Yeah. Matters so much. So FDDs, franchise disclosure documents, for those who aren't in this every day like you and me, they can be really intimidating. They're very dense legal documents, and every franchisor must have one. What section do you wish franchisors and or franchisees paid more attention to?
Well, different things for different people,
Okay.
Depending upon whether you're a franchisor or franchisee. Franchisee side of things, so I don't do any franchisee-related franchise disclosure document reviews.
Right.
But when those people call me, I always tell them, look at item 2 of our franchise disclosure document, which will lay out all of the executives in the company and determine whether they actually have experience in other systems, in the brand. If there's a turnover at the C-suite level, what does that all look like? I think that speaks to the health of a franchisor.
Interesting.
The other thing I always tell people is look at item 3 for purposes of the litigation, to see if the franchisor has been involved in a lot of litigation.
Yep.
And the last thing I tell franchisees or people who are thinking about becoming franchisees is all of the existing franchisees and their contact information is included in the franchise disclosure document.
Yeah.
You should be talking to those people to get their experiences. And then I tell people, after you do all 3 of those things, if you're still interested in buying this franchise, call me back and I'll give you the name of somebody who can then do a deeper dive for you.
Perfect.
From the franchisor's perspective, it's a little different, from my perspective as legal counsel, and making sure that we're doing things appropriately. And from a business perspective too, item 19 is the most important thing. I don't understand how we can ask how a franchisee or a prospect would want to purchase a franchise without having any idea of the financial health of the others in the system and how they've done.
Exactly.
And so
I don't understand brands that choose not to do this either.
Well, and I got to tell you, if I were a franchisor and I didn't have an item 19 and somebody still wanted to purchase one of my franchises, I might question that
person,
exactly,
right? Just as much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from the franchisor perspective, that's to me is what it's all about. And And so we work really hard to make sure that the information is accurate and that the information is helpful for a prospect when they're looking at a franchise disclosure document.
Yeah, you've helped encourage me to make mine very thorough. And it's another reason that having those corporate units before you launch your first FDD helps, because you have numbers to put in there to show people what it's been like for you.
Exactly correct.
Yeah, so cool. So when you recommend really difficult decisions to your franchisor clients, how do you balance, the legal logic with the fact that these decisions impact real people with emotions and fears and long-term consequences? Where does the human element fit into that legal?
Yeah, the human element fits into everything I do every day.
Okay.
As a leader of our law firm, I am concerned about every decision we make and the impact on those around us. And I always ask, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What's the purpose? Like, what are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
Because leaders make decisions every day, and sometimes I think those decisions get made in a vacuum, and we don't think about others and how they may be impacted by those decisions. And so I try to be mindful of that with my franchisor clients in these situations. We have those discussions like, again, I don't want to be the department of no, but I need you to understand. I don't feel like I'm doing my job if I'm not giving you a full 360 picture of how this decision may impact you on a short-term basis, on a long-term basis, and how it may impact your franchisees.
Yeah. And you've done that with me. Like, I can attest to that. You walking me through the multi-stage and what about 10 years from now questions that we might not be thinking of as business owners in the moment, right? Yeah. And just helping me understand that.
And you know what? I don't mean to be crass, but that's what you pay me for. You pay me for 30 years of experience
100%.
With many different brands.
Yes.
And working with large brands, small brands, mid-sized brands, And so that experience comes to bear every day. I still do find situations when I'm like, that hasn't happened before. Not really quite sure how we should address this, COVID was a huge, like if I had $1 for every time I said during COVID, I would not recommend this, but based on the circumstances in which we find ourselves, here's what I recommend.
Yeah. Oh, you and all the rest of us, right? In leadership positions had to do that dozens of times during that first year of COVID. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for you.
Yeah. I do think it was a little bit over the top intense for, being in an industry that was asked to stay open and also keep everyone healthy at the same time.
Right.
It's a little wild. But I'm so grateful for everything that you've taught me that, I've learned along the way from my own experience, but that I've also learned from you just telling me about yours and the things that I'm not thinking of. And I feel so lucky to be one of the 10 in the only one of 10 do you say yes to brands. So great working with you. So strong professional convictions sometimes lead to strong perceptions. And I wonder if you've ever been called the devil's advocate and how you handle that accusation when you're dealing with a client, but also without compromising your principles.
Never to my face.
Okay.
No one's ever called me the devil's advocate to my face, but I appreciate that I have a strong personality.
Yes.
And that I am very direct with people. My little niece once said when she was 6 years old to my sister, she said, Uncle Joe is very direct.
That's awesome.
How was your time? My sister said, how was your time at Uncle Joe's? And she said, Uncle Joe was very direct.
A 6-year-old.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
so,
she's got it all figured out. Love that.
So I represent franchisors.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, the decisions that get made have to be decisions that are in one way, shape, or form going to benefit the franchisor.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes this isn't a game where everybody can win. And my job is to help my clients achieve their successes. And sometimes that means that you have to be a devil's advocate, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, I would tell you that I'm always trying to strive for a solution that is going to work for all parties involved. But at the end of the day, there are times when that's just not possible.
Okay. I think it's worth it. I think it's part of your job.
It is. Like, it's part of my job. And, you know, people, it's funny because I think people that don't know me very well would be like, yeah, that's easy for him. Like, he's kind of a hard person.
Yeah.
But if you really get to know me, that's a hard part of my job. Like, I don't like to tell people no, or, you know, you can't do this.
Yep.
And sometimes you have to say that, or sometimes you have to go to bat for your clients in the face of other lawyers who are working for their clients, and make sure that you're protecting your client and their interests, and you stand up for your clients. And I've got no problem doing that.
Awesome. Yeah. Sometimes it's no. Sometimes it's you can't do this. Sometimes it's a simple email at 2 a.m. saying, haha, if only it were that easy.
Right.
So, Joe, throughout your career, you've received many very honorable recognitions. What do these mean to you beyond the titles?
They mean to me that I have had incredible mentors and people who have supported me. I think every recognition we get, every award, every success we have is never just about ourselves. It's about the people around us who've helped us.
Yep.
And, you know, sometimes that help means that somebody's being your biggest cheerleader. Other times that help is somebody who calls you on the carpet, right? And says, you got to change the way you're doing things or what have you. But I'm just grateful for those people who have been in my life, who have been supportive of me over the years, and have taught me how to be a really good leader and a really good lawyer.
So true. What a humble response, which to me, humility is the most important characteristic in leadership.
Yeah, agreed.
So you're a runner. Let's say you're mapping the course for marathon. That's what, 26.2 miles, right? But the marathon is franchising. At what mile marker would you place the greatest vulnerabilities, and why do you think new franchisors tend to overlook that exact point?
Yeah, I think it's so if I related this to a marathon, it would be the first 5 years. So let's just call that maybe the first 6 miles of a marathon. And when you run a marathon, or you run a lot of marathons, you understand the saying that the marathon really begins at 20 miles. Like, anybody can run 20 miles. It's the last 6.2 that are the hardest.
Okay.
And for franchisors, I think it's the end of the life cycle. That is also a time that can be filled with great risk, if you will. And so let me just talk about both of those. On the front side, I think the decisions you make as you begin your franchising system will reverberate and will set the course for your system for a number of years going forward.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're starting out, you might know what the right thing to do is, but it's hard sometimes to do the right thing because you have all these other pressures. You know, I need to raise money.
Yep.
I need to sell more franchises. You know, I need to generate more revenue. And all of those things are very real challenges that all franchisors face.
Right.
And I know it's easy for me to sit here as the lawyer who gets paid by the hour and say, you know, well, why would you sell a franchise to this person, or why did you do that?
Right.
Well, you know, it's perspective, and you need to remember where the franchisor was at that point in their life cycle. That period of time with those decisions that get made during that first 5-year period, I think are really important, because I think they chart the course for your brand. And I think if you veer off course at that point in time, it's really hard to get back on course. So that would be the first area where I'd say very you could have significant issues. On the backside, because they get to the point where they're going to sell their company.
Yep.
And you're taking your baby that you've created and you're giving it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that can be a really hard, emotional decision for many owners of franchise companies.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different factors that come into play. And I've unfortunately seen franchisors who have taken their eye off the ball and the sale has not occurred, and now their system is in a worse spot. Because you kind of get to a point where you're thinking, I'm selling, and you check out a little bit.
Oh my
I
gosh.
always tell all my clients,
Yeah.
you should pretend the sale is not going to close. And
Yep.
you need to continue to operate the business and continue to put your time and effort into it. So, that's a hard spot for franchisors because you're like, you can see the golden ring, you just can't get it yet. And sometimes you check out a little bit. Or on the other side, I know franchise owners who've ended up selling their companies to a third party, and that third party did not continue the vision of the brand, and they feel like that they've been taken advantage of, or their life's work has been ruined. And so it's really important.
That's my worst nightmare.
When you're looking for a buyer, to find a buyer who shares your vision.
100%.
And
This
will
is the most
carry
important
on.
thing.
Like I always tell people, legacy is so important, and so you need to find a buyer that is going to carry on your legacy,
Of course.
So,
Yeah, I don't even want to think about that stage yet, but the early stage, those first 5 years, I'm definitely 100% familiar with, and you're right, it is the most vulnerable and the most important time for setting the stage for the brand's life, and that's why not everyone can do this. Or do this successfully or have it be self-sustaining, is because you have to take off running, to stick with the marathon, analogy here. And you really have to know what you're doing in the early years so that you can create a platform to grow from without just grasping at straws.
So let me ask you, as a franchisor, the first question, if you think about those first 5 years, what was the biggest mistake you made?
Signing the wrong franchisee. You said it already. You have to find, especially in a heart-led brand like mine, core values aligned people who are as passionate about what you're doing as you are, because they're going to own it. They have to own it, and they have to be able to build those powerful relationships with their clients, with their personnel, with their community. This is a community-based, heart-led organization, and so signing a person who's not aligned just really puts a wrench in the whole plan.
So let me ask you another question. What's the one thing you wish I would have told you that I didn't tell you when you started your franchise?
You did tell me. I remember when we published
things that I told you that maybe we didn't, that you just moved by.
When we published my first FDD, you handed me the electronic copy and you said, now don't go selling a franchise to anyone who can fog up a mirror. And I didn't really fully understand what that meant at the time. I think it just meant you have to have criteria. You can't just do this with anyone who says they want to. Yeah,
especially your brand. I as a leader of a law firm at Larkin Hoffman, when I'm looking to hire additional lawyers, like one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is I hire for culture. Like there can be great lawyers who have all sorts of revenue generating abilities.
Yep.
But if they don't fit the culture and they don't have the characteristics that I'm looking for, And when I'm talking about characteristics, I don't mean how smart they are.
Right.
I mean, how do they treat other people? What are their interpersonal skills like? And so I appreciate, how difficult that is when you're an employer and you have them in your office every day.
Right.
It probably becomes even more important as a franchisor when you are selling a franchise to somebody who you then goes out and runs their own business.
Yes.
And you don't see them every day.
Yeah.
They may be in a different state.
Yep.
What have you.
Yep.
And so it would seem to me like you gotta look at what are the core tenets of the brand, and does this prospect have those?
Of course. And I should know this, right? As someone who has had hundreds of employees over the years before franchising, it's the same thing, like you said, on your team. If you hire someone who's not the right culture fit and they don't act in the ways that the brand believes are essential to the product or the service that we're providing, it doesn't work long term. And franchise agreements are a lot harder to get out of than legal or employment agreements are, in the state of Minnesota. It's really, really important.
I'm glad we both agree on that.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's become the most important thing when I'm looking to hire people.
Yeah.
It's all about the culture, and are they a cultural fit with the people at the firm already?
Yep. So fair.
Okay, let me ask you one last question, maybe.
Okay.
You asked me, did you ever have a moment or moments when you thought, this isn't working, I need to do something else? Have you ever had a moment like that as a franchisor in your business when you thought, maybe franchising isn't the right model for me?
No, I've never gone to that extreme. I love the franchise business model. I think it is the best way to grow a brand into communities where you, as the owner, don't live, because other people can be having those relationships with the community that I'm talking about that are so important to what I do. So I've never regretted franchising. There have been probably hundreds of moments where I say, I didn't know it was going to be this hard. I didn't know it was going to be like this. I didn't understand what I was getting myself into. It's definitely heightened the heights of the entrepreneurial roller coaster and made the lows even lower. I don't regret it for a second, but I do continuously get shocked by really how much it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of a commitment and a challenge.
Maybe I didn't do as good of a job as I should have done.
I don't think it's possible.
Well, you're right. And we've had that discussion, right?
Yeah, and my other franchisor friends too.
Until you're in it,
yeah.
No one can tell you what it's really going to be like.
Again, like parenting. You can, you see people doing it. It looks a certain way, and then when it happens to you, you're like, oh, this is what it is. And I'm in this for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah. It's,
right.
You can't explain it.
I think of it like running. Like I see people out running, and I think, wow, that looks like that's a really cool thing.
So fun and
easy.
They
look so fun, and it's easy for them. And then I go do it, and I think, this is the worst thing I've ever done, and I just want it to be over.
Yes. So many things in life.
Right.
And things that are so worth it. So yeah, I would not have it any other way. I'm so glad that I franchised, and also it's extremely challenging on a consecutive basis.
Well, maybe those are the most fulfilling things in life. If it wasn't hard, everybody'd do it, right?
So true. I have one last question for you too.
Sure.
What advice would you give other franchise attorneys about supporting heart-led brands like mine?
Listen more, talk less. That would be the first thing I would tell them. And I know that's hard for me to do sometimes. So I appreciate.
You're getting better at it.
Thank you.
I think I would agree with your daughters that you've changed. Yeah.
And understand that a heart-led brand has different considerations that they take into account than maybe a brand that's more focused on the expansion or the revenue or what have you. are in a brand that touches people. You've created a brand that touches people deeply, and you've given so many people the opportunity to become very successful based upon your prototype. But at the same time, you never let people forget it's about the kids.
Yep.
And you just always got to remember that in a heart-led brand, whatever it is, for years, it's about the kids, and the decisions that you make sometimes, maybe from a pure business perspective, you say, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But then you understand when you're dealing with heart-led brands that they have different considerations. And as their counsel, you need to take those into account when you're giving advice. So those would be my 2 takeaways for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Gosh, it's been so great hearing your perspective with such clarity. You have a way of making the realities of franchising feel both understandable and human. We're so grateful for the steady guidance that you've given our organization and the thoughtful way you help us navigate really complex situations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I always will be. And, you just keep killing it, kid.